Hello friends, this is Worm, and I wanted to talk about the PvP changes that Bungie is going to be making to the update, to the Sandbox next week on Tuesday, because there's some changes in here that I think are definitely going to be good for the Sandbox. So let's get right into it here. They've been paying close attention to how the weapon Sandbox has been shaking out for the since 7.3.5, which is basically the big change that came a couple weeks ago, right at the start of Guardian games. However, they state here that it's very clear that auto rifles are outperforming in that mid-range, and specifically it's precision auto rifles. Now this is interesting because of course we just got Prosecutor, which is easily one of the best 450s we've had in the game. Plus 450s in general have always been pretty solid, but especially with this meta, they've been really performing well. Things like Amit, things like Positive Outlook, and actually I think they mentioned Positive Outlook in here, but these are, I mean, they're performing very well. They're hitting their shots at some great ranges. I mean, the other day I was, hitting people, like beaming all crits with Prosecutor. It just, they feel really good, and it's really pushing other weapons outside of that like mid-range area. Why would I use a hand cannon or a pulse rifle when an auto rifle is arguably easier to use and gets a kill, like I would say, or actually not would say, but does get the kill faster. But with that being said, they're looking at precision auto rifles. Now they also did mention here that 600 or adaptive frame auto rifles such as the Summoner are not really as good on paper. And this is important to point out here because I know a lot of people say, oh, we're in an auto rifle meta, and like Trials last week was miserable because of the amount of auto rifles and Summoners and Prosecutors. Like, mind you, Bungie, when they post stuff like this and they talk about weapon usage and stuff, they're looking at the whole Crucible Sandbox. Well, yes, you might be having issues with auto rifles. That's at your skill gap or your skill bracket. When you get into higher skill lobbies, the Summoner drops off in usage. I see that, not only that, but of course last week in Trials, like look at the map we had Cauldron, which caters to an auto rifle playstyle. If we got something like, I don't know, Distant Shore, I would guarantee you auto rifles you would not see nearly as much. But I just think it's interesting that, Bungie came out and they said that the Summoner is not an issue, because for a lot of people have been complaining about it and saying that it is. So I think that's very interesting, but they did say that 450 precisions are problematic. So they're going to be making the following change to auto rifles, specifically precision frame auto rifles. They're decreasing the base damage by 5%. So if I'm not mistaken here, you hit 36 damage per crits. Again, these numbers are probably rounded, because when you take off 5% of that 36, you're left with like 34.2 for a crit damage. And I'm actually not sure the body shot damage, but this is definitely making it, it's going to retain its lethality, but it's going to rein in on its range a lot. And making this change is going to definitely, I think, see a sharp decrease in the amount of 450 auto rifles that are being used, as well as here, when we get to one of the things at the bottom here, there's another change coming down the pipe, but it's going to rein in on them. It's going to give hand cannons and pulse rifles a little bit more breathing room, which I think is very good. We're also getting some changes to hand cannons and pulse rifles, so hopefully we'll see those kind of take a step back into the meta, or at least into the scene, because like I said, we pulse rifles right now not feeling good. Hand cannons, well, if they have explosive payload, they're not feeling good, but that's also being fixed. So yeah, let's get on with it. But with precision frame hand cannons, these are 180 hand cannons. They're increasing the base damage by 6%. This, if I'm not mistaken, this isn't really going to change the needle very much. It's not going to make them 3-tap or anything like that, but it will give them more viability at ranges, and it will allow for damage dealing perks such as kill clip and stuff to get that 3-tap, because if I'm not mistaken, beforehand a 180 hand cannon with kill clip active I don't think could get the 3-tap on high resilience guardians. Now with this 6% buff, it should ensure that you're going to be able to get the 3-tap, which I think is a pretty nice deal. Also for adaptives, they've actually increased body shot damage by 1%, and they've increased crit damage by 4%. And the reason that they do this here is they explain that this is going to give those adaptive hand cannons more forgiving range cushion, because that was one of the things with hand cannons. Like the second that range fall off hit, I mean, it was required 4-tap. But also there was an issue with explosive payload, in which explosive payload was not properly affected by the Sandbox changes, so you could not 3-tap people with an explosive payload weapon, hand cannon, adaptive hand cannon specifically. But now you should be able to do that, which I think this is, again, This is important. Like, you should not be punished for having a perk. I know that the perk has been overplayed in the past. You know, we've talked about explosive payload and how ridiculously annoying it is, but since the change to explosive payload and those other payload perks, you know, with us taking less flinch from them, I'm not really seeing this being as big of an issue. Like, I think there's still going to be a minor amount of flinch, but most of you who probably watch this video are going to be able to handle it, like, you know, no problem. But moving on from there, we also have pulse rifles. Rapid fire frames got their body shot damage increased by 3.5% and their crit damage increased by 1%. Lightweights got their body shot increased by 6% and their crit increased by 3%. This is a huge one, and this is one of the things that we actually talked about, you know, in our concerns video, was lightweight pulse rifles. Were, you know, one of the things that made lightweight pulse rifles so valid in the past is not their time to kill, because they have a very slow time to kill, but it's their forgiveness. You could get a guardian kill in, what was it, 6 crits and 3 bodies, or maybe it was 7 crits, 2 bodies. Regardless though, now with this sandbox update, you had to land 9 crits, which on an aggressive frame, on a lightweight frame pulse rifle can be difficult. They're not really known for their stability. They're, you know, known for their handling and stuff. And so I think this is definitely a good change. It makes me want to go in there, get out Chattering Bone just to test it out. Again, time to kill change with this not happening. Okay, there's not a time to kill change. It's more about that forgiveness, and it's the same thing with adaptives here. For adaptives, 390s, they've increased your body shot damage by 5% and increased crit damage by 2%. This again is going to help with that forgiveness. That's one of the things that makes pulse rifles so beginner friendly, or, you know, that's one of the reasons why they have the term dad rifle, is because they're very friendly, they're very forgiving to newer players or to casual players, and this is helping bring that forgiveness back into line. So I think these are absolutely necessary changes. Will this shift the needle for you know, pulse rifles, especially with these two here, lightweights and adaptives? Absolutely not. Like, you're not going to see, like, you know, everybody start using this. This is not going to make them meta. This is going to make them just more forgiving. They're going to have that feeling that they did pre sandbox change, and I think that this is undoubtedly a good change they made to this. But moving on from their scout rifles, rapid fire frames had their base damage increased by 2%. This one, very minor change. I actually haven't used scout rifles in this sandbox, but my wife has been using a scout rifle, and she's definitely noticed it's again, with the forgiveness thing that's going on with these rapid fire scout rifles. If I'm not mistaken, it's 3 crits, 2 bodies. It's got that forgiveness, but with the changes that they made, you had to land all crits, or at least 4 crits, 1 body. I can't remember exactly what it was. Like I said, I haven't tested rapid fire scouts, but with this change, hopefully this is again swaying that to you know, that damage to be a little bit more forgiving. You know, a little bit more forgiving, so that you don't have to nail 100% of your crits. And yes, like, I understand that, you know, and I think Bungie understands that they want this meta to be a more, you know, precision focused meta, but at the same time, like, you know, with, like I said, lightweight pulse rifles, with these 260 scout rifles, the issue with these is it's the difficulty of landing all precision shots is very, very high. It's very difficult with a lightweight, especially with pulse rifles. You know, you cannot control that entire burst. You know, it's not like an auto rifle where you can start shooting, you can kind of level it out. Like, the burst happens so quickly that leveling that burst to hit all crits, very difficult. Same thing with the rapid fire scouts. You know, they're almost performing kind of like a very, very slow shooting auto rifle. So they kind of have that, they need that just little buff there. Hopefully, again, we'll test it. I'll actually probably be getting on today and trying out rapid fire scouts just to see if they are killing or feeling a little bit better in terms of forgiveness. But moving on from there, we got bows here. For lightweight bows, increased base damage by 6%. This is a pretty big change because if I'm not mistaken, with lightweight bows, you could not get a kill in you couldn't get a kill in 1 crit in 1 body. Now I think with this 6% damage buff, you'll be able to get a kill with a lightweight bow with 1 crit and 1 body. And I think this is perfectly fine. I know that a lot of people over the past couple months have been complaining about bows. And, like, yes, I get that it's annoying to get shot by a bow, then they go behind cover, they peek, shoot, come back out. and they don't have to be precise. They don't have to hit too precision shots. But at the same time, like, the trade-off for using a bow is that draw time. Like, you know, if you have a lightweight bow, I think the fastest draw time you can get on a lightweight bow is like 500. That's half a second. So at minimum, with a fully charged shot ready to go, like, you're looking at a pretty slow TTK of, you know, I gotta draw, aim, hit, draw, aim, hit. Or I'm sorry, you have to aim and hit. If you have a fully charged shot, you know, fully drawn already, release it, it's at least half a second. But again, with the accuracy nerfs to bows just in general, I think this was an appropriate change here, because bows are not feeling very accurate right now. I mean, I was using a precision bow the other night, what was it, Under Your Skin, and I could not hit my shots. So I think that this change, again, I think it's going to be okay. Again, it's not changing the needle. It's not going to make it so that, you know, you're going to be absolutely destroying people with bows or anything like that. It's just, it's this level of forgiveness that we're looking for. But moving on, we got exotic weapons. Sunshot and Last Word both got some buffs so they can kill in 3 crits. I actually didn't know Last Word couldn't kill in 3 crits. I think I knew that Sunshot couldn't get a kill in 3 crits just because it's a 150. It hits for a little bit less damage than a 140, but it's great to see these two get buffs here. Again, I don't even think I've seen a Last Word. I could be wrong, but I don't think I've seen a Last Word. So we'll have to get in there, test out Sunshot and Last Word. And of course, this is one of the other huge changes that they're making. And this is to flinch. So of course they say in the new Sandbox, with the increased reliance on critical hits, again, we've talked about crits throughout all these changes, being flinched off target when using your primary weapon feels especially punishing. This goes all the way back up here to this pulse rifles thing, right? Pulse rifles and scout rifles. When you're getting flinched off target, your TTK for these two is already slow. It's like 0.9, 0.93, somewhere in there. Like, it's super slow TTK. But it's got that level of forgiveness. But when you're getting flinched all over the place, it makes it difficult. So what they're doing is they're reducing the flinch taken by all primary weapons by 15%. So when you're using a primary ammo weapon, your flinch is going to be reduced by 15%. So whether it's primary v primary, whether it's a primary v special or heavy, you're going to be taking 15% less flinch. This is going to hopefully tremendously help the feel of Guardians when you're engaging people in the Crucible and you're trying to land shots with something like a lightweight pulse rifle or with a 260 scout rifle. Like, hopefully this will mitigate that feeling of I'm shooting, and as I shoot, like, I'm almost there, but I just get flinched off. I miss 1 bullet from that burst, and now my TTK is just driven out the roof, and my chances of actually winning this gunfight are nil. But yeah, those are the changes they're making to the Crucible coming up. I think these are pretty good deals. I think the auto rifles change definitely needed. 450s are kind of running on a rampage right now, so hopefully this will see them kind of tone back. And I think everything else here, again, it's more about forgiveness, which this is very, very good. This is very good because we talked about forgiveness. Forgiveness is a key point in a lot of weapons, specifically these, or specifically these two especially, or I guess technically these three very much rely on that forgiveness. So now hopefully we'll be able to see that forgiveness kind of return at least a little bit. I'll have to get in here and test these damage numbers to see, but yeah, that's it for the Crucible changes. Of course, I want to hear your thoughts on them. Obviously, I think the big things that people are going to be talking about here are the changes to auto rifles, as well as the changes to flinch. Like, that's a big deal, but I want to hear your thoughts on it in the comments. Of course, if you liked today's video, drop a like, helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content. And guys, do me a favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen, because for whatever reason YouTube thinks you'll like them. I will see you all next time. Bye for now.